For the last few days, I have been entirely consumed by the Bennington podcast. Once upon a time at Bennington College, the college that Donna Tartt and Bret Easton Ellis attended, and the whole inspiration behind the secret history. Basically, the secret history of the secret history. This has been known for a very long time. Since the very beginning when she published her book and all the shenanigans that happened since then. I knew it was inspired by some real event in her life. I knew there was a Bennington College. I knew there were certain students that had similar characteristics to certain characters. Nothing could have prepared me for the amount of detail. The Secret History isn't just a fiction book. The Secret History is an adaptation of reality. The reality that woman was part of when she went to college. And I was wowing the whole time. I've been sick because I had a little bit of the flu. I had a horrendous period. I spent a couple days in bed, one full day completely in bed, and I was sleeping a lot at night, sleeping during the day, and I was listening to this podcast the whole time. I fell asleep to the podcast a couple times, and it mixed with my dreams. It mixed with the thoughts in my head, and I had to rewind a few times to listen to parts again because I lost them in between falling asleep and paying attention to it. I would have these migraines, so I would put the blankets over my head with my earphones, and it was a whole thing. And every time the narrator would make a comparison, not even a comparison, she would link not just characteristics, not just buildings or specific characters. She would link such details to things that happen in real life. The freaking Italy trip happened where Henry paid for the whole thing. There was an exclusive Greek class. There was an exclusive little group there that she was a little bit part of. It was all bizarre and so goddamn compelling and interesting. I could not stop listening to it. I was going absolutely insane in a great way. But nothing compares to listening to the voices of the real life Bunny and Henry. And it makes total sense to me that the two most important characters in the book, the most despised character and the most beloved character, are the ones that were not completely, but very much inspired by real people. And by the way, I'm not saying all of this to take any credit from Donna Tartt, because obviously she's an incredible writer. You can't read The Secret History or listen to the audiobook. By the way, one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to in my life. I haven't listened to that many, but I can't imagine they are much better than that. There's no way you can experience her prose and the details and the pacing and just how amazing this story is and think she's not a brilliant writer. Many people went to Bennington College. She was the only one who wrote The Secret History. But listening to the voices of those two people, by the way, Bunny and Henry are the only characters of the main cohort of characters that have direct correlates to people that were in the podcast. The only other correlate would be Richard, being Donna Tartt, but she refused to participate. And I will talk about it because if I was her, I would also refuse. I would. And I will talk about it. But listening to Bunny was freaky because he was right there. And there's even a joke in the podcast where the guy, Matt, who inspired Bunny, was talking to his mother, being like, oh, I'm a character in someone's book and I get killed. And his mother was like, no one would dare kill you in fiction or in real life. And then she read the book and she was like, yeah, that's you. That's you. She got these people so right that they were immediately recognizable. It was impossible not to see them. And it was a whole uproar and whatever. But so listening to Bunny to Matt, the real life Bunny, was freaky. But listening to the real life Henry, insane. Like every time he was on, I was like, gotta pay attention. It was so clear. Like these people almost feel like characters in real life. The distinction between Bunny and Henry in the Matt and Todd in the way they speak was so clear. Listening to the person that inspired Henry talk about the whole thing was insane. Like the fact that Donna Tartt had such an eye to be able to write these characters inspired by these people to such an extent that she was able to kind of predict how these real life people would behave in the scenario of the book is insane. Because this is one of the comments the narrator of the podcast says, right? That it's not that she appropriated real life in such a way that is like out of malice or criticism or whatever. It's that she understood those people and the way they would behave to such an extent that she was able to create this fantastical world around them and make these characters so believable because, I mean, she extended reality into fiction and using these very real characters, very real people as characters, made it all so goddamn believable. And the narrator of the podcast and like the writer even says at one point, like she asks Todd, the inspiration for Henry, about the Bacchanal and all that kind of stuff. And he, like the real life Henry, Todd says something like, you know, out of all of us, out of the cohort, if anyone was to ever have any interest in truly hosting a Bacchanal, it would have been me. He said that on the podcast. I mean, that's such, wow. I mean, I knew a little bit about this, but I had no idea that he went this goddamn deep into it. And I was just completely fascinated the whole way through. It's like 12 or 13 episodes, completely fascinated. It covers, the three main writers. That's Donna Tartt, Bret Easton Ellis, and Jonathan Lethem, right? Jonathan. I hadn't heard about Jonathan Lethem before in my life, so sorry, I'm not from the US. But it covers the three main writers that came out of Bennington College from that year. I mean, I don't think Jonathan graduated, but he would have graduated with them on the class of 86. And it covers them from like where they grew up and how they came to be who they are up until like even after they graduate to publishing their books and whatsoever. Like I didn't know that Bret Easton Ellis was still at university or at college when he published his first book, and there would be like reporters going to the college to interview. How freaky is that? Like the lore of this whole thing is insane. It's so cool. Like you can't deny it. You can't deny it. It's so goddamn cool and interesting and fascinating and enchanting. I love that podcast. To the person, I don't know who this person is. I never heard of her before. I probably will never hear about her again. You have done a service to humanity that is incalculable. Thank you so much. To the person, I don't even remember her name. She said her name in every single episode. I'm so sorry, lady. I don't remember your name. I love you so much. This video is going to be so long. Donna Tartt refused to participate in the podcast, and it's kind of implied that she refused because she's been cultivating this very mysterious persona to go along with her books, and like participating in a podcast that would dissect her life and growing up in Mississippi and all that would kind of go against it. But honestly, after listening to the whole podcast and listening to like the theories that the narrator has about Donna Tartt and the way that people talk about Donna Tartt, I mean, I understand because everyone talks about her in a very kind way. Everyone is very fond of her, like, and admires her tremendously, as she deserves to be admired. You know, she wrote the secret history. But there's also this like undertone of she hid parts of her life, and the same thing with Richard, where Richard completely fabricates a new life for himself. And in case of Donna Tartt, what the narrator kind of theorizes is that she didn't create a new life for herself. She has been honest about her past, but maybe she doesn't want to be attached to it, that she isn't the proudest to have that past. And I mean, when the narrator went into her past, I understand why. And I mean, if you are a writer and an artist who's created this whole persona for yourself, this public persona for yourself that goes along with your books, and people are in a podcast kind of peeling away the layers, kind of making the wall transparent and shedding light into parts of your life that you don't want anyone to see. I understand why she wouldn't want to participate in it. And to be honest, many moments in the podcast kind of portrayed Donna Tartt as this shy, insecure wannabe, a person who's trying so hard to be like someone else and not like what she came from. And I mean, in a way, this is what fascinated me most about this whole thing, is this perception of Donna Tartt as this girl who was, very androgynous, who dressed like a boy, who even sometimes passed for a boy in relationships and stuff like that. They dissect her life and her potential intentions, and in such a way that it makes sense, and it creates this a lot more clearer image of who she might be. And it's a bit tragic. It's a bit tragic that she appears to have spent such a big amount of her life trying to build a persona for herself, trying to build this thing that, inhabits a 1930s English world somewhere. And I found it so sad. I found it so tragic. I found the whole thing, this whole perspective of her, that despite everyone admiring her and being very fond of her, the perspective that kind of seems to linger is that she was a little bit of a wannabe in that, she didn't attend the Greek classes, it's suspected that she didn't attend the Greek classes. And there's this whole theory about why she kept living with Paul. And I mean, learning this about her, the possibility that she was trying to create a whole new self, doesn't take away how much I enjoy the book and how much I respect her as a writer. It's just, in a way, it kind of makes it even more impressive, because she wasn't this brilliant genius. I mean, they said she was from the beginning. It's one of the stories that one of her first short stories that some big editor or whatever read, said, "Oh my God, you're a genius," and that's a whole story. But the fact that she tried so hard to be this person, and it wasn't just natural to her, to me makes the whole thing even more impressive. And the fact that she would be she wouldn't want to talk about it, that she would shy away from it and would rather not participate in the podcast that would shed light on that part of her life, even though the fact that she might have created this story despite it not coming naturally to her and her having to build this whole persona, despite the fact that this maybe is even more impressive for some people like me, she would still not feel comfortable about that, feel embarrassed about it or mortified. There was a piece, I think Jonathan Lethem, I don't know if that's the last name. There were so many different people in this podcast, but the Jonathan guy wrote a piece about going to Bennington College with Donna Tartt and Bret Easton Ellis, and it is said that she was mortified by the piece because he described her in a way that was different from the image she projects to the media. So, I mean, of course she wouldn't participate in this podcast. If she doesn't want the media to see her that way, of course she wouldn't. I just find it so sad. Because, I mean, of course I can relate to the idea of wanting to be someone else. And of course I can relate to I'm from a working class family. I'm not rich. So I can obviously relate to the idea of being in a place full of rich people and feeling, threatened and embarrassed that you don't have as much money as them. I mean, I was working in Brussels for a while and I was surrounded by rich assholes. I mean, one of my coworkers one time, because I didn't go home for Christmas because I didn't want to spend money on tickets and I would just rather stay and have a chill Christmas. And one of my coworkers literally suggested to me, "Oh, you should go skiing in Norway." As if I would have money to go skiing in Norway. So like I can relate to to a certain extent to this feeling of feeling less than when you're surrounded by people from a higher status or class or whatever. But I don't know. It's just going the whole way to, dressing like them, trying to impress them, trying to ingratiate yourself with them because you want their acceptance. I can understand it, but it's just, I find it sad. And I think it's because, like, in a way I can't relate because I don't know, just I've never felt like that I had the capacity to pretend to such an extent, such a big extent like that. And yeah, I just listening to this podcast and like listening about the possibility that there's a whole different side to this person. It just makes me want to know it. It makes me want to know it and makes me wish that she felt comfortable sharing that part of her. And yeah, like in a way, this podcast was so sad. So sad. I mean, the parts about Bret Easton Ellis were sad about his life and his dad and like all the goddamn drugs. But in a way, listening to this podcast also helped me a lot for something because, as you know, I am trying to publish my stories and I am working on a lot of different projects and I've shared some of my writing journey here. I will continue to do so. And if you've been here for a while, you know that often I figure shit out for my stories while I'm not writing. And one of the stories that I've been working on, and I mean, if you've been here again for a while, you know that it's, that I'm working on a novelette that will start as a short story, then it was a novelette, and potentially it will go all the way to novella, and who knows. But I put it to the side. I did, this is like 14,000 words, something like that. I did a couple of full text reads and I was like finalizing some details and looking at the prose and all that kind of stuff. And then I just left it to the side because I knew I would have to have another round of just being very meticulous and detailed with the writing and all that kind of stuff. And I knew I needed like to leave it to the side for a while to then pick it back up with fresh eyes and a different perspective. And when I did that and I went to work on other pieces, my writing just started improving naturally. And every time I thought back to that story, I thought, oh, I'm going to have to improve that prose a lot. I'm going to have to do a lot more like work on it. And it just kept happening like this. And now that I've been now that I've listened to the podcast, I realized that there's another change that I need to make because something never truly felt complete about it. Because the story is very much inspired by an experience that I had in a very particular place for a very short period of time. It was like less than a year that I was in this place, and what I experienced was a set of bizarre experiences and just bizarre encounters. I met many people that truly felt like characters and they were so distinct from everyone else I've met before. And it was this world that was so different from any other world I had inhabited until then. And I felt like I was living a story and I could not help but write it. I started writing it a couple of years ago and it was very small in the beginning. It was just a little sketch of, it was a scene. It was something that was completely bizarre and was still stuck in my mind, and I had to write it because, when you live something so bizarre that you have to retell it. When you experience something so strange in your life and you just run home to tell whoever. And I continued working on it and it grew and it grew and it grew because the amount of bizarre experiences from that one less than a year that I had are so many. And I just continued writing it. And listening to the podcast, I realized that a lot of the characters are real people, that I like transcribed some real conversations that I had, that like personality traits are real of those people. And like listening to how Bret Easton Ellis wrote and how Donna Tartt wrote and all of these things made me realize, and the whole like plot of the story. I mean, there's not really a big plot. It's very character driven, but the plot that there is, I don't think it's very well developed at all. I think that's the thing that this podcast like made me reflect on, is the fact that probably this is a much bigger story and I need to get these characters that I've written and that are so distinct from one another. Like, I'm really proud of these characters because I was able to use certain characteristics of these real life people that I had bizarre encounters with and form them into actual characters that feel distinct from one another, that have a place in the story. And when I try to now imagine what it could go on to, because the ending that I had predicted was very open-ended. Like, there's a decision that the main character has to make, and if you paid attention to the story, you know what her decision will be, but it could go either way depending on what you think and how you view the story. It's an open-ended story. But I knew what she would decide to do. And what I feel now is that I need to continue to write it, to explore the plot for a little while longer and to escalate it into something that will have an impact for the whole story, where the bizarre experiences and the rabbit hole journey that she goes through, has a moment of catharsis in the end or throughout the rising, escalating tension. And the idea that Donna Tartt had these real life people that she turned into characters and that she knew so well that she could predict how they would behave in this fictional scenario of a bacchanal and killing a farmer and whatever, was what set this in my mind, because I know these characters so well that I know what they would do in the plot that I think I have to develop now. I know exactly what they would do. I know exactly where it would go. And fuck me, now I need to write it. And it's going to become even bigger. Like, this started out as like 1,000-word little story. It's 14,000. And now that I have this in my mind and that I have this idea of, taking these characters further because I know them so well, I have to do it. I have to do it because now the story will never be complete without it. And yeah, this podcast has been really important to me somehow. I listened to it in like 3 or 4 days. It's, but yeah, this is mostly what I wanted to say about it. But also, after I finished the podcast, now I'm obviously re-listening to The Secret History. I watched a bunch of videos on YouTube about the Bacchanal and the locations and just real life correlates, because now I am like in deep on this. Finally, I'm like years later, late to this conversation. But I wanted more from this persona that is this character that is Donna Tartt. I wanted more, so I went to watch the Goldfinch movie, and that was a mistake. Really boring movie, really boring. But it got me, I'm sure the book is fine. But it got me thinking, because if The Secret History was inspired by her time at Bennington College and the little cluster of Greek students, and the little friend was inspired by her friend's little brother, which that was a mean thing to do, what's the inspiration of the Goldfinch? Is this her first like fictional story that has absolutely no correlate to real life? Or, So if you know about it, please let me know in the comments if there is a real life correlate to the Goldfinch and like some story that she heard of or experienced that she took inspiration from. Because I would love to know. Now that I am this in deep, I would love to know. But yeah, that has been my journey through the secret history of the secret history. And wow, I can't believe things like that happen in real life. You know, when I lived in Brussels, I went to this literary festival called Passaporta. And one of the talks that I watched was Max Porter, presenting his book Shy. And he had like a friend playing the cello as well. And he did like a whole performance, like he performed a part of the book. And I was just sitting there in the audience, looking up at this dude that I'd never seen before in my life. I heard about his book, but I'd never read it before. I literally just went into any talk on that festival. Like I bought the general pass and I just went to everything that I could find. And I was watching him perform his book and like the cello playing and everyone just, and I thought to myself, like, I could do this every day for the rest of my life. And I feel like one of the things that I've been truly searching for is just this environment, this community of people where you no longer feel like a stranger. Because that's the thing, like, and I think that's why I find it so strange that Donna Tartt may possibly be playing up this persona that she created for herself, but in fact not be like that at all. Is because like I've never been able to do that. I don't know why. I'm one of those people that is just naturally there. And it's been really difficult for me in offices because when you go to an office place, you're supposed to have like a filter. You're supposed to have like different, like to present yourself in a different way in an office. You have to be super excited about the work and you have to be super warm to everyone. There's a different persona to being in an office and I can't put it up. And all my life I've had like these little comments that are not really mean or anything. It's just people being curious and honest, where people tell me that I am like strange or different or unusual. And it's been happening for so long and it always happens. Every time I go to anywhere new, there's one person that is like, you're a bit off, you're a bit different. And I never realized what it was. It was always like, okay, cool. I know, like I've been told, I know. And I never realized what it was. And when I was in Brussels, when I was in this office, it was just strange to fit in, like where everyone was super nice, but also I always felt like I was missing the point. And it's this filtered image that you have to have. And I realized part of it when I was talking to a friend over Teams and he was being very different than he was in real life. And I realized, oh, because they're reading this and we have to have the filter on. But when I was there, a colleague of mine, like we were like saying goodbyes and everything. And we got to talking to him like about a more personal, like in a more personable way. And he said that I told him that like I always get this kind of stuff. I always get people telling me that I'm like different or unusual or whatever. And he said, yeah, because you're always like honest, because you can't control it. And I even had someone else tell me like that I can't control my facial expressions, that whatever I'm feeling I show it in my face, which I hate. And I think I can control it a little bit. But he said this and he gave an example of one time when we were in the meeting and it was me, him, and our like supervisor, our boss. And it was just waiting for like the external partner to come in on the meeting. So we were just sitting there and I think we were talking about movies or something. And I just said, yeah, I like when movies end badly. Like I like when people just all die at the end, you know, like Cabin in the Woods where the world ends, and I like that kind of stuff. And the room was silent and I didn't understand why. And I just moved on and I didn't care about it. But then when we were having this conversation at the end and we were saying goodbyes and whatever, he brought that back and he was like, I love that because like you could look in our boss's face and her face and she had no idea what to say. She was so out of her comfort zone. And that's the thing about you, that you're always like there. And that's when I realized what it was. That's when I realized that this little thing that people say about me being different or unusual or just a bit strange is just that kind of aspect of just ever-present honesty. I'm not trying to do it. And I'm not trying to be like fakely humble, because I don't know how it happened. It wasn't on purpose. I just came into the world like that. And Because I'm such a creative person, I always thought that if I found my way into a community of creative people, or like artists and writers and filmmakers and stuff like that, that I would find just a bunch of people like that, a bunch of people who are perpetually themselves, not because they try, just because they can't help it. And when I was listening to the podcast and I listened about this, like Donna Tartt is one of those writers where it's like, yeah, it's her. Like she won't be defined by whatever is popular by whatever is trending, by whatever demands the public wants of her. That's her. She's like that. She appears every 10 years and then she leaves. And listening to the podcast and listening to the idea that maybe this is a very overplayed persona, that it's not, that there's a possibility that's not exactly her, that it's like a filter that she's putting on to, be this thing that she was just creating herself. It made me feel so sad. Because, I always thought that like artists and writers and these creative ass people out of anyone would be the most authentic, like devil may care kind of people. And now I don't know. There's the scary possibility that I will live my whole life and never find people like me. How narcissistic is that? Anyway, I'm going to go punch my ego a little bit. And this was my rant about enjoying the Bennington podcast beyond belief and appreciating The Secret History even more now. And I mean, I'm re-listening to it and I'm enjoying it tremendously. I was thinking about it and I can already refute my own argument because I have already met people that are completely, absolutely, genuinely themselves. And I remember who they are. So I'm not that special. Another thing, this is going to be buried way deep down in the video where no one is going to see it. But lately I've been thinking a lot about this quote that goes like this: everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish for its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid. I left my hometown when I was like 18 and I came back when I was about 27. I was almost 10 years away because life is rough and I needed to be away. Anyway, one of the only things I found in my room when I came back that survived from my teenage years, they were very, very rough, was this inscription on the inside of my wardrobe that says everyone is a genius. And it comes from this quote. And lately, I've been reflecting a lot about this and I've been thinking a lot about this because there's so much rhetoric about superior people and immigrants being inferior and you shouldn't be in our country and stuff like that. And I just hate it so much. And it's just, this like little quote keeps coming back to me all the time because it's one of those things where like you hear it and it's like, oh, it's true. Like, everyone is good at something and we shouldn't be judging people on the same metrics all the time. But I mean, more and more, I'm starting to truly believe that he meant it when he said it. Like he truly meant it. That it wasn't just part of a smart quote that was trying to illustrate this point of everyone is good in their own way. I think he actually truly meant it, and it's true. And it's kind of insane to think it because I know what most people will think. Oh, really? You think that the dude down the corner that drinks all night and hits himself on the head is a genius? And it's like, yeah. And it kind of makes me think of what takes that away from us. Because, there's like that idea that kids are super smart and then they just become dumber with the education system and being all measured the same way and being all trained the same way to be like these little obedient factory workers and whatever. Like, I keep wondering, like, what makes us, and I mean, I don't have to wonder much. It's society. It's the way that society is organized and we are all trained to behave the same way to keep it going, to keep the machine going. But like, what is it specifically and over time, and what are all the little things that kind of take away that little shine that little kids have? And because as I grow older, as I become more myself and grow more into my skin, and realize that I still like the same things, you know, I'm still the 7, 8, 13-year-old kid that really liked to write. That's still me. I guess I'm just grateful that whatever happens to everyone to make them like very similar to one another, and whatever happens to everyone to make them, you know, play up this role for society and have similar goals and similar expectations and similar dreams, and put such an effort in being accepted and being welcomed and being part of where we live. I'm just, I guess, really grateful that that I wasn't completely crushed by it, that there is like some part of me that escaped and allowed me to still be me, I guess. And it makes me think about Donna Tartt, because that whole discussion about her having this huge persona and playing it up for the public, and the whole androgyny and, you know, dressing like a boy, and like the impression that I got from the podcast was that there was like an aspect of very serious intention in becoming this person, that she was very different back home, and then she went to Bennington College and she became this like realized Donna Tartt. And it makes me think that maybe she didn't create it, she just kind of grew into what it was always like. Every time after I have all of these reflections with myself, this time is not just with myself, it's with everyone that's watching this. Every time after I have these like huge reflections with myself, I think, or maybe I just don't know about anything and I'm just rambling and it doesn't make any sense. And then I go and have a snack